So for the nurses in the room, the cost of not deciding is higher than the risk of moving. Stay tuned for this one. It's going to be good. Hello, fellow nurse entrepreneurs. One of the things that I've always wanted to do was always wanted to help nurses work from anywhere, pretty much have the flexibility, pretty much have their freedom so that they could do whatever they wanted to do.
Joining VP Nursing was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. If I was to have a regret, it would be that I didn't join sooner.
If they wanted to be with their children, if they wanted to be with their families, they can do exactly what they wanted to do.
Ola is the type of person, she's not going to let you stay the same. The way she levels up her clients in every area of their lives.
I could not have imagined being a nurse with my own business, being in this space with so many amazing people, with a coach that 1,000,000% cares about what my outcome is going to be.
And so here at VP Nursing, we teach nurses how to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money, owning their own time, building profitable nurse coaching, consulting, and service-based businesses. And so now we're at the beach and we're working at the beach and we're having a great time. We're doing a brand photo shoot. It's an amazing time. So if you want to learn how to work from anywhere around the world, creating that flexibility, creating that freedom for yourself, but monetizing the knowledge that you already have, join us at VP Nursing Business Academy. Hello. So I wanted to come and talk to you today about the risk of moving, because some people think that it is higher risk to move. Now, I'm just going to tell you my story. 20 years ago, if you'd have told me that I would be in business for myself, I would have been like, you are tripping just a little bit, okay? And the reason why is because I just didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do. I thought that I was going to be at the bedside for the rest of my life. I was going to retire, have a nice, little old family and just be good, right? But then something happened and it shifted in healthcare. And so most of you saw this happening, right? We went from, I worked in the emergency department primarily, and we went from a 3-to-1 ratio to a 4-to-1 ratio. And actually the ER was set up and designed so that that's how it was. And even in the intensive rooms where normally you would have, the less intensive rooms, you might have 1 or 2 people, like you had one intensive room along with 2 other rooms. There was 2 intensive rooms at the same time, right? So the ER is a bit different than like the ICU, because in the ICU, they're a little bit more settled most of the time, not all the time, right? But in the ICU, in the ER, we are actively trying to keep you alive, right? And so there were so many days where I just didn't have time to even go to the bathroom. I didn't have time to eat. There were days when I had to wait until the end of the day to eat. It was just so crazy. And I knew that I couldn't stay at the bedside for a long period of time. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to affect change at the management level, because I, in my little thinking, thought that, okay, well then what we need to do is we need to go to management. And so I applied for several supervisor and management jobs. Hold on. Excuse me. But I applied for several jobs and, just kind of was boxed out of those jobs, didn't get those jobs. And then finally I was able to get a job. And then once I got that job, it was like, you're not welcome here, right? My numbers were always good. Always good. But there was this toxic environment that was at the management level, right? And I just couldn't shake it. And it was just not something, it was like this undercurrent of an undertone of you don't belong here type of thing. And so it was really, really interesting. And so I knew that in order for us to make effective change, then we needed to go into business for ourselves. And I had known that for a long time. And so if you felt like this, I want you to drop a "that's me" in the chat, right? Because let me tell you something, it can be a little bit traumatizing, right? So this is the truth about waiting. And this is if I'd have known years and years and years ago, then our business could be much bigger. We could have been making more impact, but I didn't realize that this was even a thing. And then even at that time, I didn't realize, how much of an impact that it could make in actual healthcare. And so the lie that we've been told is I just need more time. Time does not create clarity, decisions do. And so you waiting feels safe because it avoids responsibility. So many times what happens, even after you go into business, sometimes people will go into business and then they will wait to take on clients because they're scared, right? But this is the reality, is that you have survived, and you have survived every single day. You have been successful at every single day that you have come. Either you've learned or you've survived. Either you've learned or you've been successful, right? And so the reality is that you are successful at what you have done thus far. So why wouldn't you think that you can do this, right? Now, what indecision really costs nurses? You stay overworked for another year, okay? You stay underpaid despite your expertise. You stay invisible while others monetize similar knowledge, right? And so joining us at the Millionaire Nurse CEO conference, where nurses learn to move from hesitation to execution. So I want you to drop execution in the chat, because execution is one of those things that you have to do in order to be able to move forward. And that's one of the things, like, faith without works is dead, right? So execution is just the works. Right. And of course, you have to have the faith that it's going to work, because you don't get what Oprah Winfrey said this one day, you don't get what you want, you get what you believe. And so you have to have the identity that says that I am that person that can make it happen. And once you change that identity, your whole life changes, right? Nurses understand this in healthcare, that delayed treatment worsens outcomes. So that's the reason why you have all those standards. So in healthcare, we used to have all these standards, like door to drug time, right? So if a patient came in and they had ST elevation, you're supposed to get their EKG to them within 10 minutes. You're supposed to have door to drug within an hour, and door to cath lab within 90 minutes. Right. And so those are the things that you want to do in order to ensure that the patient, and it's evidence-based practice. And so delayed treatments worsen outcomes. And this is the same thing whenever you come into business. It's very, very similar, right? Failure to act increases your risk of, delaying, right? Your risk of another business coming in and taking your clients and not really treating your clients right. Or the risk of you just not having, because, I talk about DEI a lot, right? And how, at one point in time, DEI was a big thing, but then, this administration came in and DEI is not such a thing anymore at what it may be, but it's not as much of a thing anymore, right? And the reality is that, there could have been a lot of money that have been made, right? And so you want to really, really understand the market, really understand what you need to do in order to make the money. To move the needle. Early intervention saves lives, and it saves your work, your business as well. Business works in the very same way, right? Now, the risk of playing it safe, burnout compounds. I remember being extremely burnt out. And if you've been burnt out before, if you're tired, have been tired in whatever job you're in, I want you to drop burnout in the chat, right? Because burnout is a real thing, and it can really, really, just tire you out. Your confidence erodes, right? Your confidence erodes from, you just not doing the thing that you said that you were going to do. Because this is the thing, every time you say that you're going to do a thing and you don't do that thing, then your confidence in yourself erodes. And the reason why your confidence in yourself erodes is because you said that you were going to do it. You are not even holding to your own promises. So what makes you think that you can have a client that you can hold to their promises, right? And so that's the deal about that confidence. And the way that confidence is built is through one way only, and that's through execution. Because every time you execute, then you become more confident that, you get the feedback, right? Because either you succeed or you learn, right? So you get the feedback. Once you get the feedback, then you optimize what actually is going on, whatever you're doing at that time, right? Opportunities pass to nurses who decide faster. That's just what that is. Success loves speed. Stability without ownership is not safety. Ownership is the name of the game. I watched a podcast with Tony Robbins this morning. And one of the things that he talked about is ownership, right? At the end of the day, ownership is what it's about. And so in order for you to be able to make those decisions, in order for you to be able to help the people that you need to help, in order for you to be able to do the things that you want to do in life, ownership is the way to do it, right? Now, risk versus regret. Risk is temporary. And, we were at TSP the other day, and Lamar Tyler was talking about the door, the door of no return, right? So there's two doors that you can make. There's a door that you can go through, and then there's a return that you can come back from that door, right? And then there's a door that you go through that it never closes. And a lot of times we are making decisions. We are delaying what we need to delay simply because the risk, because we think that the risk is something that we can't delay. Like it's going to be a door of no return when it's really not that, right? Regret lasts for years. Have you ever had a patient that came in and that patient was, regretting, like not spending time with their family, regretting, not making the move that they had? I tell the story about this, now, it's not my story, but it was the story that I heard about this guy that went to heaven. And when he got to heaven, there was this, the mansion with the many rooms, right? And so Gabriel was showing him around. And so he got to this door, and at that door was all these gifts in that room. And so he was like, I want to go in there. And Gabriel said, no, you don't. He said, yes, I do. He said, no, you don't. He said, yes, I do. And so he got to that door, and he got ready to go through the door. And he realized that because he loved Christmas, right? And so he got to his gifts with his name on it. And what he realized was that those were the gifts that he should have used while he was on the earth, because the graveyard is the most expensive place on earth. Because there's ideas that have died there. There's books that have died there. There's innovation that have died there because people did not move, right? So it's important for you to move. Most nurses don't regret investing. They regret waiting, okay? Now, to be in the room with nurses who are making bold, informed decisions, you need to be at that Millionaire Nurse CEO conference. So if you're coming, I want you to comment at the bottom that you're coming, all right? Say, I'm coming. All right. And if you have not obtained your ticket, then drop in the comments and tell us that you need a ticket. Now, why nurses still freeze? Nurses have to get permission at the end of the day. There is, you're accustomed to permission-based systems, right? Because you have to get permission from the physician to do the thing. And that's the reason why sometimes whenever nurses go from the nurse role to the NP role, then they struggle a little bit with that. I'm not a fan. Some people say that they're not a fan of nurses going into the NP role from the beginning. But honestly, I really think that nurses should go into the NP role a lot sooner. And the reason why is because it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Right? It's really, really hard. And so that's my thinking, that if you go ahead and you get accustomed to that responsibility, get accustomed to that, then you're good, right? And so you're accustomed to that permission-based system, conditioned to wait for approval, right? Overeducated, undersupported in business decisions. This is not a knowledge problem. It is a decision problem. Okay, because you have to be the person that decides. You have to be the person that says, okay, I'm going to make this decision and I'm going to move forward with this, right? The cost of another year. Ask yourself, how much is it going to cost you financially? Okay. What did last year cost you financially? So we'll just do round numbers. If you want to make $200,000, which is absolutely doable within a year, right? You make $200,000, which your coaching and consulting program, right? You make $200,000. If you wait 10 years to do that, you have forfeited $2 million. How many of you want to lose $2 million? You don't want to do that. Now, do you? Now, what did it cost your energy, health, and your joy? What will another year cost if nothing changes, right? And so you have to be very clear about that and be very clear about how to move forward. Deciding changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as considering, you start operating as an owner, right? Momentum replaces overthinking, because there's a lot of people that overthink, right? Why are you overthinking? Like, overthinking, well, how will people see me if I'm making money? No, it has nothing to do with anybody else. Other people's opinion of you is none of your business. I want you to be very clear about that, right? And so what you have to do is you have to be very clear on how to move forward. And so you want to join nurses who are done waiting and ready to lead. So if you want to come to our conference now, I need for you to drop your "I want to come" in the chat. Now, this is the real risk. The real risk isn't the conference. The real risk is staying isolated. And that's what so many people do, right? And so it was a scripture in the Bible that talks about man that isolates himself. Like, you don't want to be isolated. You want to make sure that you're in a room with like-minded people who understand what to do. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. We're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back. All right? Stop renewing your license just to stay broke. Every renewal season, nurses pay fees, take classes, and check boxes, but never build wealth. That license you're renewing every 2 years, it's a gold mine if you stop using it the old way. At the Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference, you'll learn how to leverage that same license to build your own business, to coach, to consult, and to create offers that bring freedom, not fatigue. And yes, you'll still earn CEUs. Comment conference below and we'll send you the details. Yes. I can't wait to see you at the conference. So here we go. So next, the real risk is staying isolated, building without a proven room, right? Trying to figure it out alone and getting stuck in spaces that you didn't even need to be in because you're trying to do it by yourself and not getting around people who actually know how to build faster, how to do it quicker. Like, that's huge. Rooms compress time. Isolation stretches struggle, right? Now, what happens when you decide you move faster, you think differently, and you start backing yourself? Because you have confidence in yourself that you're going to make it happen. There are times, are there times when I'm tired? Yes. But what I do know is that I have to move faster. What I do know is that I have to work in order to make sure that my clients are served in this well, right? I'm very intentional about that, and you want to be in a space where you have people who are intentional about your success. You want to be in a space where people are good to you, right? Decisions create confidence, not the other way around, right? And so you want to make sure that you're deciding to do that. Now, this is the final truth. Indecision feels comfortable. It feels very, very comfortable. But comfort is expensive. It costs a lot of money. Okay, it costs a lot of money. If I started doing this way back when, we would be much further in our economic wealth than we would now, because economics compound, right, over time, because we're investors. And so those types of things, they compound. Ownership starts with one clear decision. And your clear decision is that if you want to stop delaying your next level, then I want you to join us at the Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see you there. I can't wait to see you in the room with us. Okay, so comment conference below if you want to come to the conference. And you, ladies and gentlemen, have an amazing rest of your day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.